Yeah, I'll admit I've been the one to resist that because I think there's a lot of workload there for, actually what we want to do is drive people to the website for information. And
Yeah.
if I have to maintain multiple channels, it can get quite labor intensive.
Yeah, I would think it would also.
Yeah. We even have an issue with our outage management system where the way it works, it's actually triggered by phone calls. We have phone numbers for the majority of our customers. So if you call in with an outage, if we have your number, that caller ID actually triggers the outage management system to start troubleshooting where the outage is.
Huh.
So if we move to things like Facebook, we actually could
people would stop doing the phone calls. Yeah.
Right. And for some folks, phone calls are old timey, but that's where our outage management system works. So the more of those we get, actually, the faster the system will narrow down the outage problem. And so by the time guys get to the office, they may already know where it's at or have a really good idea.
Yeah.
So we actually want to encourage people to call.
You do a letter to the editor about that or something, because I'm one of those people that says, I don't want to bother that poor secretary, at the PUD on, she's probably got 40 phone calls already.
Right. And I get that, the fact that you say do a letter to the editor tells me you probably missed the article. Tony Reed did a little article where, and he'd asked me about it, where we put some of that information in there, but obviously folks don't see all that.
Yeah. No, I probably missed that one.
Yeah, and young people, and this is good.
I like that it's automated though, because before you got here, if our power went out, we actually would snowshoe down the power line, find the pole, and then call in
with the pole number.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because we want our power back on.
I notice now, and this applies to my kids, young people just don't call. They don't think a telephone is for talking, So it's a little different mindset depending on how old you are.
Well, I think, Kelly, we probably ought to get started. It's, a little bit after 10. I know Kelly Gant is joining us late because she has a doctor's appointment. And we have Jennifer representing the rec office for Sally, and Leanne, the NRA acting director. Huh? I don't know. I haven't heard from Chris Losey, so I don't know if he was going to join us today or not. I imagine they're all.
I haven't seen any other emails, so.
I mean, I know they're all trying to put together what is the top priority projects to recommend to the full collaborative next week on the August complex. So they probably are working on that he and Tara. So
yep.
Easy to do attendance.
Yep. I am recording for the sake of notes.
Okay. So I guess, Leanne, the first stuff kind of falls on you, or the first one, which is kind of staff resources and updates. What's new besides, it seems like everybody except for Chris Losey is in an acting position.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, am I on mute?
No, we can
No,
hear you.
you're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. So Tara Jones is the district ranger now over in Weaverville. So
Acting
she is,
or
no, she's the district ranger.
Cool.
Yeah,
She got the job. She was hired.
Okay.
So that's good news. You have a permanent now point of contact there. And then
Cool.
and then you're right. I am new to this position and I will be going home soon. Believe it or not, it's amazing how fast 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 6 weeks from yesterday, I will be heading back to Utah. And then my hope is to overlap 1 week with Sarah so that I can bring her up to speed on all the things that have been happening while she's been on maternity leave. So And I apologize, I probably don't have as much details as you would like. I saw the agenda yesterday
That's
afternoon,
okay.
so I will give you the information.
Yeah,
I
sorry
have.
about the,
That's
sorry
quite
about
all
the
right.
lateness of the agenda, everybody.
That's quite all right. So I do have some information on some of the key things you're looking for. Trinity Center boat ramp, I know that that was a high.
We'll get, let's kind of work through the agenda and get to
All
that
right.
later. I'd
So
like
what
to
are you
hold off
looking
on,
for
actually
me
on the
underneath
boat
this
ramp.
first agenda item?
First agenda item is just staff resources.
Is there any
So who-
particular topic you'd like to hear about? Because it's a little
just-
unclear to me, and I'll happily share with you what information I know, but is there any like particular topic you need to know or want me to
Just
give
who-
you some information on?
What key
doing
position,
what?
who's doing what, and what vacancies are you working on filling?
Oh, okay, that helps. If it had said vacancy updates, that would have triggered something with me. So we're right now.
We'd like the hiring update.
Yeah, yeah, I'm thinking, okay, well, how many programs do we have on the district? You want a fire update? You want to, okay, copy. So we have an administrative assistant position that we will be filling with. We're going to be getting a certification list from HR, hopefully next week. And that'll be a real big help for the Shasta Lake District Office.
And that's the NRA?
Yeah, exactly. It's part of the NRA. But I can only report on the Shasta Lake unit. So we are going to be filling that. And then we're getting another person in special uses that we've got a job announcement out right now that will be very beneficial for the NRA. And so that job vacancy, I believe I saw in my email just hit my inbox a few minutes ago, that's going to be announced very soon if it's not already live. I just haven't had a chance to look at the details of the email, but I saw it come in from HR. And then we have made a selection. We will be making a selection and making it official for a fisheries biologist, hydrologist position. We've gone through that. So that's a very good thing. We've been needing that. And we've brought in, we've got some a recreation maintenance worker that we are making a job offer to in the very near future. It's already been made, but it's a tentative offer. So some of these, I can't give you a name.
Is that for the Shasta? Is that primarily for the Shasta side or the Trinity side?
Shasta Lake Management Unit right now.
So we're focused on the Trinity side. If you've got anything
I don't have any
particular.
information on the Trinity, like out of the Weaverville district office.
Okay,
I
well,
have a
maybe
couple of
Jennifer, looks like
colleagues.
Jennifer's looking ready to talk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jennifer, if you've got some information on that, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, so Sally did let me know that we hired a new lake patrol who will be starting at the end of March.
Good.
Sally will be back in the beginning of February. And then you might have already heard, at least forest-wide, because Scott Russell, our forest supervisor, retired. We have Ted MacArthur that's acting, and he's normally the forest supervisor on the Six Rivers. So I'm not
Great.
sure if that name rings a bell for
Yeah, the collaborative members of all deal with Ted pretty regularly because we're countywide, so
So
both
he's-
forests are in our
Gotcha.
sites.
Okay. So that's all the staffing updates that
That
she
it?
left. Yeah. We're going to
Okay,
be
well,
starting with our
that's perfect.
seasonal hiring here I think next week. So we have a lot of seasonals we're intending on bringing on if we can get those spots filled.
Right. So any
There was-
questions?
I did have one clarification too that I got from Ted MacArthur yesterday specifically because I asked him, was that like a standard detail or is he running both shops? And he basically said that He'll be acting SO on the Shasta Trinity as a standard detail, which means that his position as supervisor on the Six Rivers side will also be backfilled with a detail.
Right, I'd heard the same thing, and that they'd be making an announcement very soon.
Yep.
So one thing that I always forget on this agenda is to look at the minutes from the last meeting. So do people have comments, questions? We never get a lot of time to look at them ahead of time.
I just had one comment and I guess one note. So I thought, is it Rebecca that does the minutes?
Yes.
She did an excellent job. That was great. They were very readable and totally great. The only thing I wanted to note was just to make it clear in the discussion on the campground usage, there's essentially there's campgrounds are divided into two groups. There's the NRA, the Shasta Rec concessionaire. And then Chris is talking about the South Fork Management Unit campgrounds, which are not part of that concessionaire's duties. So under the campground day use sites where Chris is saying most of the campgrounds were closed due to the fire, that's the South Fork Management Unit campgrounds. It's just less confusing if someone in the future was reading that. It's
So on what page?
It's on page
I'm-
2 in the middle where he's talking about campground day use sites, and like in the middle of the paragraph, he's saying with all the fires, they had to close most of the campgrounds. Those are the SFMU campgrounds.
I will,
Otherwise, if you read that paragraph, it's pretty confusing because it's like they're really busy, but they're closed.
right. Yep. I think that's a good clarification. I will
Okay,
make a
that
note
was
of
all
it.
I had.
Anyone else take a look at the minutes? Have any comments, questions?
Thanks, Carol.
No. Okay, so Jennifer, I think this is going to fall on you, this next agenda item also, which is temporary staff housing, which was
Yes.
something that that Sally every year has us put on the agenda right before you start hiring
Okay.
temporary staff.
Okay, well, I'm glad it wasn't new. It's probably the same thing that you folks have heard before. Our barracks capacity is limited, and with all of the seasonals that we bring on for archaeology and wildlife and silviculture and everybody else, fire, our barrack space gets filled up. And we're concerned that if we don't have housing opportunities, that we won't get much interest from recreation seasonals. So we're looking at ways to be creative of how we can house them. If there's rentals in town, or if you folks are aware of any affordable rentals, that information is always good to have.
Okay, so anybody, any thoughts, any creative ideas? You got a spare bedroom, Ross? You're on mute, Ross. Susan doesn't want us to hear you.
Is that often. We're trying to build
So-
4 units directly behind the Forest Service there, so you can keep your, keep the faith.
Well, I mean,
Those built.
and this is not a Forest Service hiring unique situation. I'm sure Paul has had struggles when he's tried to recruit, the best candidates for jobs at the PUD. The RCD struggles with it. Everybody, I mean, housing, NRCS housing stock is extremely limited here.
Yes, well, the costs to build are so high now.
Yeah.
We just got a bill from Paul for $8,500 to fix, put up the electricity. and there's 2 poles on the property.
Sorry
So,
about that, Ross. It's cost of doing business in California is high. I agree with that. And we see the exact same problem. Another thing that's exacerbating it, I don't know if folks don't talk about it a lot, but there's a lot of particularly older housing stock that's been converted to marijuana grows. And of course, that takes it out of the market for actually living in. There was a recent raid here in Weaverville and Douglas City where, a couple of houses from the outside that look like they're real houses have been totally gutted, and they've been converted with lights and all the grow apparatus, and it's hard for regular folks to compete against that from a price standpoint. So then you're left with what Ross talked about, building new housing under the California Building Code, which is just incredibly expensive, and it's a recipe for a shortage that we have.
I'm wondering, I mean, has the Forest Service looked at applying for the Great American Outdoor Act funding to, build new barracks or expand the barracks, or maybe even just buy RVs that you could put at the Forest Service campgrounds, or essentially using your facilities for housing better?
The RV thing is one thing that I've asked about. And I think it's something they're looking into or will be looking into. I have seen other forests applying for the Great American Outdoors Act for barracks, but I don't know.
Right.
I haven't been involved in the project selection on our forest, so I'm not sure if it's come up or not, but I think that's going to be a great opportunity as well.
I mean, I did see, the Shasta Trinity had a building project, in the latest proposals for Great American Outdoor Act, but it was for a new headquarters for the Forest Supervisor's Office. So you
I
gotta,
saw that.
this is nothing
Yeah.
you can do, but, Forest needs to kind of decide what its priorities are.
Right. And Weaverville is no exception. We have no barracks in Reading.
Yeah.
And housing in Reading has gotten pretty outrageous. And in McLeod, it's the same thing. It's pretty, we get booked up quick.
Yeah.
And so I guess something just to keep in mind, but I am definitely curious about the RV trailer one, because when I was a seasonal back in New Mexico, we lived in RVs right on the district. But
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking they pretty much, the Forest Service has closed the East Weaver campground as a campground, except for as a group camp. I mean, maybe that's an opportunity to, put 3 or 4 RVs in there, or camping trailers, and
Help with security.
it would help with security and some of the problems that they have at that campground anyway. And it still would be available for day use, which is what most folks are using it for now anyway.
yeah, it's a great suggestion. I will definitely be asking more about it.
Yeah. And so I have just, and as a side, Jennifer, I know I don't know you. So you're on a detail from, are you stationed in Weaverville?
I'm in Mount Shasta. I work in
Okay.
special uses. I manage all the outfitter and guide permits actually for the whole forest. So
Okay.
I do the outfitter and guide permits over in the Trinity Alps and Trinity River and that area as well. But I am stationed in Mount Shasta. I've
Okay.
been up
Well,
here
cool.
for almost 10 years now, come
Oh, okay.
February.
Cool. Well, great. I'm sorry I never met you before.
Yeah, it's okay. I get over to Weaverville occasionally, but not as often as I would like.
Yeah, we understand. We don't get over to Mount Shasta very often either. So,
Yeah.
So Leanne, it looked like you had something to add? No? Okay.
I do not.
Okay. So anyway, anybody hears of a good rental, let the Forest Service know where it might be, So Great American Outdoor Act, we kind of were just talking about that, but we've talked a little bit about, what was funded with the first round and what was being proposed with the second round, but I thought maybe trying to just flesh that out a little bit as it relates specifically to what, you know, the Trinity County Collaborative Group's Recreation Committee might care about. So I don't know who's got that kind of information, or if there's just a table somewhere that you could, you know, that we could chat about it briefly, and you could send it to Kelly to include with the next minutes. But just so we kind of have a sense of what's going on.
So I had sent you all an email back before Christmas with the list of potentially funded projects for working on this calendar year from GAOA. And there were, like, if I recall, 8 projects. I can share that with you on screen right now if you
Yeah,
like.
that'd be great if you wouldn't mind.
I'm going to try. I'm not a Zoom person per se.
I think you just hit the thing that says share screen.
Yeah, I just got to make sure I have the right email up. Hang on a second.
Okay.
So bear with me here, please.
You're all set on this end.
All right, because I have an email that I had sent out to you. Where did that? All right, here we go. Okay, found it.
Leanne, are these the projects for 2021 or not the ones that you've applied for funding in 2022, right?
These are the current projects that we tentatively received funding for, and so I want to share those with you.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right, now let me figure the screen share thing now that I found the document. All right, screen 2. Oh, sheet. All right, screen 1. Let me know when you can see that, please. Can you see that, folks?
Yeah, we got it. Thank you.
So I just literally a second ago, I was texting our forest engineer, as he's really skookum on the NRA stuff. He's been very front and center involved with this, and asked him if he could give me a status update on where we are with those projects that I shared with you that have made it through for this year's 2021's the ability to be able to implement some projects. So I'm just going to read back what he said to me, okay?
Sure.
So forgive me, I'm just passing on the message from him. So he says to me, I asked him about, do we actually have the money now for our 2020 approved projects and going into 2021? And he says the money stays at the RO. The forests and zones do not actually get the money in their pockets. We send contract and agreement packages to the regional office for review, and at least for contracts, they submit the requisition and the contract package into contracting. I don't know if they actually have the money from the Washington office, but they are asking us to move forward with all the projects that were shown during our meeting yesterday. And those projects that I have up on screen for you right now, those projects that had made it through that would potentially affect your collaborative, I believe.
Right. So it seems like, so Stewart's Fork roads resurfacing would be one. The Trinity Alps Wilderness Granite Lake area trails maintenance would be one. I'm not sure where Hawkins Creek is.
That's over in McLeod.
Okay. Then Trinity Alps Wilderness Landers Loop trail reroute would be one of ours. The NRA Trinity Unit NRA water systems, that's one for us.
These are the ones that are tailored to you, I believe.
Well, yeah, there's a couple, like, I don't know, the Sisson Callahan Trail.
It's not. Yeah, Huckins Peak Road is not.
There's a couple that
Okay.
aren't ours, but by and large they are. Yeah.
Sisson Callahan is not yours either.
Right.
Unless you go up to Mount Eddie side.
Yeah. With it. Cool. So so essentially the you guys put together the proposals, the packages, they get sent to the regional office that then does contracting, and then they get done.
Yeah.
If there's
they do.
contracting.
Yeah, so they're asking us to start moving forward with implementation. How all the nitty gritty behind the scenes stuff works and how the money moves hands and all that, I don't know. But there is going to be forward progress on these projects.
Do you have a separate information about how much money each one of these was funded for, the amount?
No, I do not.
We're not,
Would
we're
that,
not supposed to talk about that because they feel it would be biased for contractors that bid on them.
gotcha,
So-
right, okay.
So we do
Right,
know,
because
but we're not
they'll
supposed to
bid the
share that.
maximum amount, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, my question maybe for our group is, are there any of these in particular that the group would like kind of some updates on what the project actually is? The proposed, what's going to be in those contracts or those bid packages, so that we have a sense of what the projects are. All of them. Yeah. All 6 of them. So as you guys start moving forward, I think the group sounds like maybe just regular updates on, Stewart's Fork, resurfacing is from point A to point B, and is chip sealing or whatever that might be. And Bowerman Barn roof resurfacing involves A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z, that kind of thing.
Sure, and that makes total sense. I think at this stage, though, I don't have those.
Yeah, I don't
concrete
figure you
details.
would have that yet.
No. So,
But just to pass on to Sarah and others,
Right.
And the engineer, that just to be able to get updates. Go
Do
ahead,
you-
Jennifer.
I'm assuming, just because this is the first Trinity Collaborative meeting I've participated in, I'm assuming you send out notes from the meeting afterwards to everybody?
We do.
Okay, so
We need to
that'll
do
be-
better at getting them out sooner, but
Minutes.
we get the minutes out. We sent them out with this last one. And we may have not gotten you on the email list. I'm not sure.
Okay, so that'll be a standing topic about wanting updates on those projects, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
But initially, just, whatever the proposal was, maybe not an update, but what was it that was proposed for funding, some more detail. Like the Trinity unit NRA water system, is it all of the water systems or just certain ones?
And is there a schedule, you have a kind of prioritized or whatever?
NRA signs and kiosk, is it all the NRA signs or just the information kiosk at Osprey that needs to be relocated? Just more detail of what was proposed would be wonderful.
Okay,
And you have the great advantage of saying, here, Sally, this is what they wanted.
yeah, I'm writing that one down.
And Leanne can do the same thing with Sarah. Okay, anybody have any thoughts, questions on the projects or anything like that? Anything more kind of detail people want, that sort of thing? So Susan, you're muted if you're Susan, you're muted.
I think Sally talked about the water systems and everything that they were going to upgrade. So that's the one that I was most interested in.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if it was, there's Stony Point, and then there's, right now the Mule Creek, Minersville, Bushy Tail system. And then I think Ackerman potentially, but I mean, all those systems are aging out and have maintenance needs. So I wasn't sure if it was the specific ones that we've been talking about or just generally all the water systems, that needed to be some improvement made.
And even the tougher ones like Preacher Meadow,
Yeah, Preacher Meadow, because there's no potable water there.
so.
So, and then for Bowerman Barn, that's down later on the agenda, so I'm assuming we won't be able to get any updates on Bowerman, so, but, the roof replacement originally was they had to take the existing tin roof off, pull the building square, and then, put sheathing and a new roof on, so that was a $300,000 project. So I don't know if they envision doing that whole thing or some subset of that, because, so, I'm just curious, like what actually was in the proposal.
I can read you information back from our cultural resources specialist, Pete Schmidt, but it's farther down in the agenda. So you had asked
Yeah.
that I stick with your agenda.
Okay.
That's great. Okay. And
I
then,
can probably give some more details on some of them here. Let me just see real quick. The Stewart Fork Bridge or Stewart Fork Road, at least the comments associated with it is the road needs drainage improvements, repair of a roadway failure, and resurfacing of existing gravelled road so that it provides safe access to the wreck sites.
okay,
Let's see what the other one you asked about.
Trinity Alps,
Let's
There
see,
were a
the
couple of
NRA
them.
sign,
yeah,
repair and replace signs and kiosks at boat launches on the NRA.
The boat launches?
That's
they
what it
just-
says.
Oh, because Trinity Center boat ramp, that's a brand new.
Yeah, and that one's separate. The
There is-
Landers Loop Trail reroute. That one, complete the remaining trail work for the Landers Lake Trail reroute and restore decommission the existing trail in sensitive wet meadows. And then the Granite Lake one. That one just says improve popular wilderness trail system. So those were just initial descriptions when we were applying. So
Right.
I'm sure all of them will have,
yeah, as details, become
updates.
apparent, it'd just be good to share that. Okay. And then the
Yeah.
second agenda item under the Great American Outdoor Act was back in, well, around Thanksgiving. Not to start a rant or anything, but on the day before Thanksgiving, an email went out asking the public to comment on proposals for the 22, I guess, fiscal year. And they were due on the Monday after Thanksgiving, but so people did that, but I'm, so just kind of curious, have you guys heard anything about what is going to be selected for the 22 year, or is that process still ongoing?
That process, as far
That
as I
one's
know,
ongoing.
unless Jen, you know something different, is still ongoing. I reached out, we've submitted the projects for 20 for going into the next year. But as far as I know, that the projects have not been approved yet by the Washington office. Jen, do you have different information that maybe I'm unaware of?
Nope, that's the same, just that it's at the Washington office.
Okay.
So you guys know how public comment was factored in?
I do not know.
Because, the Minersville boat ramp, the $1.5 million was part of that. And so I was sending my comments like, please fund this, please fund this. So I don't know if that makes any difference.
I don't know, and I tried asking about a Minersville boat ramp update and there isn't one. We don't know the status of that yet.
That's still, I know that the Minersville boat ramp did not make like the RO priority list, Pete was telling me, but it's still out there it's still at the Washington office. I mean, it wasn't taken off the list, but I don't think it scored as high as some other projects.
Okay. And so I guess from a timing point of view, kind of reality is probably not going to be any decisions in the next 2 weeks in Washington. And then a new administration has to get all their people in place. So it's probably springtime at the earliest kind of decision or a redo.
Well, but the people that would be reviewing the list, they're not administratively assigned. They're just like Leanne and I, but in DC. So I
And
don't
they give the thumbs up or thumbs down.
Yeah, so I don't think the change in administration is going to
Oh,
impact.
that's good news.
Yeah,
Yeah,
their
Yeah,
schedule.
we're not appointed people, so, we just soldier on and do what we're told. So,
Yeah.
the work isn't going to stop just because folks are in Washington and there's this administration change right now. However, as far as knowing anything more concrete in terms of funding and what we have received or will receive, we don't know that
Okay.
at this point.
That just what we wanted to ask. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Anybody, any questions on Great American Outdoor Act projects? No? Okay, so the next thing up was another Sally request. So Jennifer, I guess that's you, and that is OHV ground operations grants.
So what I have from Sally, and I'm sorry, it's probably pretty vague compared to what you guys might want to know, but we're intending on applying for another ground operations grant with the California OHV grant program. And similar to what the Six Rivers did with their ground operations grant. So once Sally gets back in February, she's going to start working on that grant application. They're due in March.
So I don't know, we may not be familiar with what Six Rivers did. So do you know what that was?
Yeah, I'm not sure. She just had a note that if Josh or Tom is there, a discussion of how their ground operations grant went on the Six Rivers would be great. But so I don't know if those grants, if we need support letters, she might be reaching out when she gets back or something along those lines. But typically those grant agreements, that money can be used on our OHV trails, and I believe our level 2 roads also we can use OHV money on. So I have to be honest, I'm not sure if the intent is to use that money to hire some seasonals or replace signage or do road or trail work. I'm not entirely sure. But maybe Sally can give a better idea when she's back.
Well, it might be, our meeting in March, I don't know if it's before or after the deadline for applications, but I guess the consensus of the group, I might throw out an idea is just, go for it. Whatever she can do in terms of grant applications that improves recreation, it's an informal consensus because we'd have to take something to the collaborative. The collaborative would have to take it to the Board of Supervisors for a letter of support. But just in general, we're in support of grant applications for recreation.
Yeah. Yeah, and the timing probably would be pretty tough if the applications are due in March to get a letter of support because of that complexity of our own process. And the fact that the Board of Supervisors only meets twice a month. But, you know, if the group is okay with that, we certainly can make sure that the minutes of this meeting show general support for submitting a grant application for OHV ground operations.
Okay.
Anybody object to that? No? Okay. So that's the best we can do now. Part of what Sally said she was looking for by having this on the agenda is one of the requirements of OHV Commission grant program is you have to present your proposals in public meetings. And so this was
Okay.
one opportunity for her for that to be presented in a public meeting, so.
Okay.
Do we know what the,
So, well,
what do you guys have an estimate of what that ask is gonna be? Like the total dollar amount?
I don't know. And I don't see that Sally's online, so I can't ask her right now. I don't know.
The RCD and
I know
Watershed
there's
Center
a-
apply
there's a-
also, right?
Yeah, we oftentimes both do. I guess the OHV, you know, they have a 2-day, what would normally have been like sort of a, you know, seminar kind of thing to go over the application process and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. Normally that's like an in-person thing that they would usually do in various places around the state, usually in Reading, the ones that we attend. But yeah, the Watershed Center and the RCD also do that. And but what I did hear was that in years past they had sort of a stabilized budget for this, but it's, you know, just largely probably due to this past year that we had, it's dropped from 36 million down to 30 million of awards, which means that all the, you know, everything's going to be that much more competitive.
Yeah, the program is funded by the green stickers for off-highway vehicles. Okay. Okay. So the next thing we had on the agenda was just kind of updates on trail kind of stuff. The first was the Weaver Basin Trail System status. Forest Service have been working on NEPA for a combination of fuels management and trails. And the last time we met, it was the phase 1 was supposed to get a decision signed sometime before the end of the year. So Jennifer, do you know what the status is?
it did not get signed before the end of the year, but it's close, I understand.
Okay,
That's
and that's
actually-
phase 1.
Yeah, I believe so. That's with the community forest project.
Yeah.
And I actually have a meeting with them this afternoon, but I know that's one of the priorities to get done this year. I don't know the timeline or really have any update beyond it. It wasn't signed last year. I know that. So ongoing, but close. I know there's a
Close.
lot of we've been having for it.
Guy in the midway says close but no cigar. So,
Yeah, and I'm not sure how to define close either. Hopefully this year,
hopefully this month.
Yeah.
yeah, that would be great.
Okay. Great, thank you. And then we don't have anybody from Hayfork, but Jennifer, you have anything on trail system issues over in the Hayfork area?
Yeah, I've got a few notes on that too. So the E-Wing project,
The Ewing,
are you familiar with that one?
Yes.
yeah, the
That's-
Ewing Reservoir.
Yeah, there you go, Ewing. Didn't even know that was how it was pronounced, but that one, BLM has been working on the environmental assessment and it's about to be launched for public comment.
Oh, okay.
So we've put in our review of that EA and we will be starting our decision memo document this month to hopefully move forward based on what BLM did for their analysis for that. It's like, I think 1 mile of trail on the Forest Service. And then BLM on their their land. I think it's like 9 miles or something like that, roughly. So
Okay.
that one will hopefully have a decision this year. Then we can look at funding opportunities to get that constructed.
Great. Okay. And any other Hey Forky things?
Yeah, so let's see. Sally uses a lot of acronyms, so I'm going to try to hopefully get the right ones out. So Mike and Sally are going to be managing the trail rehab for the Modoc, Six Rivers, and Shasta Trinity National Forest following the August complex. They're going to be using the CCC crews and the SCA crews for that.
So I think
So
probably
we did-
Mendocino National Forest, not
Oh,
Modoc.
sorry, Mendocino. Yes, not Modoc.
Yeah.
Wrong side of our state.
Wrong M.
Mendocino. Yep. We also put in for special funding for the, I'm assuming this is the South Fork National Recreation Trail.
Yeah.
I know there were several bridges that got burned up with that one. So we put in for funding, special funding for that, as well as put in for additional bear funding for the trail rehab for that. So we're still waiting to hear back if that gets funded.
Do you know, is that a request to the regional office, or do you know?
That one I think went up to the Washington office.
Okay. Great.
So that seems to be all the stuff for Hayfork. Obviously the campgrounds, we also put in for funding for those 3 campgrounds that got burned through, as well as the Forest Glen, the rental cabin we have up there. There's some repairs that need to be done up there as well. So that's also, we're waiting for the funding for that to be approved, hopefully for bear work.
Okay, great. Any questions for Jennifer? No? Okay, good job. Thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah.
So on the agenda, we're at boat ramps, but I'd like to still kind of move it down towards the bottom of the agenda, hoping that Kelly Gant can join us after her doctor's appointment, because I know she had some specific questions. So, and we probably don't have anything new on houseboats. That's just kind of a standing agenda item on the houseboat
Yeah.
permitting issues.
What are you looking at specifically? Your agenda item's not clear on that.
Oh, who wants to take that on?
Well,
I'll jump in. if
Paul,
you
let
want.
Paul give it a shot.
Yeah, so for years, literally for years, we have tried to get the Forest Service to change its policy, which currently is to continue to reduce the number of available houseboat permits on Trinity Lake. And, we think this, or maybe I and others think that the Forest Service really didn't pursue this even in a legal fashion, but they changed they started treating houseboats like cabins with 100-year leases and as an exclusive use of the lake. And our lake is underutilized. And what this does, it has the perverse effect of making it difficult to maintain infrastructure on the lake. Those houseboats are the economic foundation for the marinas. Once you lose the marinas, you lose fuel on the lake, you don't get the visitors from Eureka or wherever, and you just get into this death spiral where recreational activities on the lake collapse because you lose fuel, you lose all those facilities. So we've been trying to get the Forest Service to administratively change this policy. We've solicited letters from Representative Huffman, but we've had no success. And right now with COVID, candidly, it's hard for us to lobby in DC like we have in the past. But speaking for myself, we certainly haven't given up. I think Kelly would say the same thing. Probably others would say the same thing. But this incredibly flawed policy that the Forest Service has, we want it changed. I mean, Pat, does that cover it, you think?
Yeah, I think there's two other pieces to it. One is that we were working with Sarah, to work with Scott Russell for an administrative fix. And what we saw as a possible fix was, instead of having two separate pots of permits, one for houseboats and one for marina,
Private and commercial.
The
private and
rental.
commercial, kind of two different pots.
Yep.
Mhm.
And instead of having two separate pots, put them all in one pot with a cap that would give a little more flexibility as to whether it's a private permit, a permit to a private houseboat or a commercial houseboat. And Sarah was working on that with Scott. Of course, Sarah went on maternity leave and now Scott is gone. So, it's kind of for us, probably a recalibration, start the clock over again and kind of continue that discussion to see, because it appears as if the process that was used to create this system right now was also an administrative decision by a previous forest supervisor, though there's really miserable records, to show what happened when, but nothing in the Federal Register, no apparent decision memo, that kind of thing.
It was
So-
never open for public comment. It relied on
Yeah.
public comment that was 30 years old. It was outrageous the way the current decision was made.
So anyway,
All I can do is tell you, when I came here, it's the same way on Shasta Lake as well. So, but I talked with Paulette about this a little bit, and she said that none of the marina owners haven't approached her about expanding their ability to have more houseboats. She hasn't heard from any of them.
Well, that's
So I
not
guess
the-
I'm scratching my head on, is there and I'm not making light of your concern at all. I just don't really have a full grasp on the problem. Is there not
So
enough
the-
boat slips?
the
Is there not
problem-
enough boat slips on the lake that are being
No,
utilized?
no, Leanne, the problem is when the private boats are counted as exclusive use, when
Yeah,
someone
like rec
doesn't,
residences. Yeah.
when someone doesn't renew their permit, that permit goes away.
Mhm.
So the number of private houseboats can go from essentially 101 or whatever it is now to 0 under the current
Right.
policy.
Okay.
So that's
Right.
the concern, is that you're essentially diminishing the number of boats over time. So what we're saying is, if the lake can handle 100 boats, it shouldn't matter whether they're private or commercial, or whatever the current carrying capacity is. I don't know the exact number, but it shouldn't matter if the
In other
marinas
words, that's
don't.
how many are available.
Yeah,
It's a,
total.
okay, there's 100 permits available. Maybe right now you have 70 occupied, you have 30 that aren't, but it stays 100 permits is what you're, if I
Yeah,
hear you.
that's all we want.
so if you want to sign that.
It doesn't.
No, I'm not going to touch that.
Just kidding.
We're
So,
looking
but
at
it
the
helps,
long
it
term.
helps give me a more context to what you are concerned about. Well, I appreciate that. And,
Yeah.
you
'Cause
know,
we-
and,
We started this in 2013 with Secretary Vilsack. So we're just concerned about the long-term implications of the policy that essentially does away long-term with any private houseboat on the lake.
Eventually, it will
Potentially.
result in a loss of all that infrastructure on the lake
Right.
because of the economic foundation. And I mean, if we look at how underutilized the lake now, let's say somebody from Eureka wants to come over and put a houseboat on the lake. The only way they can do it is to buy somebody else's permit, wreck out their houseboat. I mean, so one, the costs are, astronomical, and it's absurd because we have the capacity for way more houseboats. Just if you do a comparison with Shasta on a surface area equivalency, I think we're a third of what they are. It doesn't make any sense at all. It's one of these Sharon Haywood holdovers that we haven't been able to fix.
But
well,
we're hopeful.
stay hopeful.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I wish I could say I could help you with that particular thing, but I cannot. But I do appreciate hearing the because I never really had a firm grasp on what the challenge was that you all were facing,
Yeah.
or what your main concern was. So thank you for educating me on
You're-
that.
You're welcome.
Another piece of that, when we were actually having these discussions initially with Sarah Akridge, we did a fair bit of research into this, and obviously there's been people that have been paying a lot attention to it for a lot longer. But another part of the issue is that the policy basically has, as was indicated, like there was 102, I believe, was the number that I remember of private permits, and there was something like another 120 or so of commercial. The thing that's really that Paul's alluding to is the fact that in the actual resorts that are on the lake, there may only be something like 30 to 40 of those commercial permits filled.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like about 70 or 80 or something like that, unfilled permits that are essentially not being utilized.
Mm-hmm.
And because of the way that the policy is written, you can't use the commercial permits to increase, even if there was a desire to, and by Kelly Gant's and Paul's indication, they are aware of a number of people that would put a boat on the lake if there was an actual permit available to do so. And
So are all your private permits consumed?
yes.
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah.
because
That's
once
what-
one
that's
goes
what I was
away,
curious
it's
about.
eliminated.
And I
Yeah,
think that original 102 is now dropped to 99. I think they've lost, there's been 3 that have
Yeah.
been lost to this attrition, basically. And so, so part of the issue, that we've been trying to get across is like, well, that number, if the environmental, compliance has been done on it, and it says that this, that the lake can handle 222, say, houseboats on it at any given time, and we know there's not going to be that many with the commercial side, that number should have some flexibility so that you could be giving more private permits out as needed, and then not losing them by attrition also.
Okay, that helps. That gives me a good context. Thank you for sharing that with me. Sounds like a really big challenge problem, and I wish I had an answer for you, but I did want to listen to what the concern was, because I didn't really have a full grasp on it.
Appreciate that. And certainly when we started the collaborative in the recreation committee, this was not seen as one of the low-hanging fruit that we were going to tackle right away. But the next item was called one of the low-hanging fruit, and that is the first mile of the Trinity Lake Multipurpose Trail Loop.
I'm the
And
low.
that's Ross is hanging in there. He's looking for that low-hanging fruit. So
I think it's now going to be the Ross Molyneux Memorial Trail. It's waiting for me to die. So we haven't got the first mile of the 185-mile loop done yet, and it's just insurmountable. I proposed the idea to Vilsack when he came to Weaverville 9 years ago, and it's impossible for the Forest Service to build, or not even to okay, we're going to build a trail, and to okay and do the NEPA on the first mile of this 185-mile loop. And about the houseboats too, I think we should mention that the houseboats are the big spenders in the recreation group. They're the people that buy food for the week. They buy gas. They buy God knows horrendous amounts of beer, and spend a lot of money. Not the people eating granola in the wilderness, and hiking back there. It's the people on houseboats, and it's a huge boon for the economy for Weaverville and Trinity County. They might stop at Costco and do a Costco run, but they're buying food at Holiday Market. they're spending a lot of money into town to go to the restaurants, at least one night. They might take in a movie or something if that's open. But they're spending a lot of money in the county. And so the loss of these houseboats and the reordering of whether they're commercial or private, it means a lot of money to us. Okay, and then we can get back to the trail if you'd like.
Yeah.
So last meeting, when we were talking to Cindy, she was gonna check with the biologist to find out, what was the issue with, so we have all the reports, except for the biologist, he did the field work. It was just like that final piece of the NEPA document. So any update on whether or not she was successful in getting the report, the wildlife report done?
I seem to recall before Christmas, I'm looking back through my emails here, that I reached out to Todd Johnson, and that had not been, and I think we talked about that, and he thought, and I'm just trying to find that email traffic, forgive me for not just having that readily available. I'm looking for it. Yeah, I remember having a discussion with him about that. And I'll circle back with him on that. But no, we haven't had any direct movement on that. So I do apologize not for having more information right now, but I do remember.
Because we still hope to take advantage of Caltrans work that's going to be happening associated with the culverts, possibly even culvert work that'll be happening as part of the NRA water system work in that area, but, to do some of the little bit of the earthwork that needs to be done, moving things around so that Ross's Trinity Trail Alliance can muster the forces with their McLeods and shovels and actually implement the rest of the trail at some point.
Well, and the other concern is he did the field work quite a while ago. So I don't know what kind of.
I know I did talk about that, and they don't anticipate that anything really is going to change that much.
Oh, that's
So
great. Thank you.
Yeah, that was one of our concerns.
Yeah, that Leslie mentioned that too, that she thought the field work was going to hold, because we've been concerned about that.
Yeah, so that was, but I'm trying to, sometimes I get so efficient at filing that when I'm grabbing my emails and putting them in the appropriate slots, they go into the wrong slot accidentally. So
Yeah, we all do that.
I'm not seeing that email immediately from Todd Johnson, our biologist, but I did have that conversation with him. And so before I misspeak, I want to try to find that, and then maybe that's something I could circle back with you on.
Okay, that'd be great. You get it to Kelly or I, and we can get it out to everybody.
I think we have to mention too that trail goes through every campground, through Trinity Center and everything. And so it's a huge economic boon. There's 4.5 miles of the trail that we're adding to that is built out there. So that means bicyclists and campers will bring their bicycles and use that trail. And so it'll help fill, and irregardless of the lake level, they will use that trail, and they will camp in campsites and spend money. And so that's another huge boon for the economy of the county. It's not
Great.
Ross,
the wilderness somewhere,
Ross, Vilsack's coming back. I personally can't wait to give him an update on the trail.
Yeah.
We're going
Right.
to. Yeah. So remember 10 years ago when we talked about this? Yeah, I'm serious.
He won't recognize me.
Oh, he'll recognize you, Ross. You haven't changed.
And so
You haven't changed a bit.
I think he was the governor of Ohio, and they have
Iowa, He was
Iowa.
one of those.
the
And,
state that has this.
They have Ride Bra, which is a ride across Iowa, and so
Yeah.
every year they have this, and people set up tents and provide meals and stuff, and they provide for all the nonprofits in Iowa for a year with just that one event, and so he was he was a kindred spirit. He really, he understood the bicycles and the boon they are to the recreation of people, you know, and so on how much money they generate and stuff. So it's
Okay, so Leanne, you'll circle back with us. That's great.
I'll
So
circle
let's-
back, I'll go talk with our wildlife biologist on the district. So I know that he knows that this is in his laundry list of projects to tackle, I guess. So I need to
Yeah.
find out when he's gonna put that, when he'll schedule that and get that
Right.
in his field work, plan of work and all of that.
Great, thank you.
Thank
I
you.
just made a note. So thank you for jogging my memory on that.
So let's take up the Bowerman Barn. All
right, I've got
You had
some-
some more detailed information you
I
thought.
have
from
some more
Pete.
information for you on that. And because you'd asked me to try to find some tidbits for you on that. Where did I put that? Mr. Schmidt, where is your email? So Pete Schmidt is our archaeologist, you probably are aware of on the
Yep.
district. He's the one I've been working with on this. And I asked him, I think it was yesterday morning or the night before. And he responded back to me that it has been funded, but the money that it's been funded for isn't even close to what it would actually cost to replace the entire roof structure. And so what he says to me, he says a proper roof replacement with additional necessary stabilization of the superstructure while the roof is off would cost several $100,000.
Right.
That's okay. Replacing the roof without doing the other work would be counterproductive. That's what he says. So however, we have options to spend this money in a productive way that could stabilize the barn and replace a few roof panels that are in bad shape. So to fit the roof replacement project description. So what we tentatively will receive funding for on that is not enough to do the whole ball of wax, if you follow. So, and do we actually have a plan chiseled in stone right now to use what they have authorized us to have for that? No, we do not. So he is working on getting some ideas together and chiseled out on how we can utilize that funding for the barn. But it's not enough. The money that was approved in that that GAOA funding is not enough to do like a whole $300,000-$400,000 project.
Okay,
So there might be some additional, I don't know if you all are aware of additional grant funding opportunities or partnership opportunities that maybe we could look at chasing. I don't know about that, but you know, that came to mind when he sent me this email. So it was just something I was rolling around in my brain. Is there anything else out there that maybe the collaborative is aware of in terms of grant opportunity?
probably not offhand, but the group is usually pretty good at keeping their ears and eyes open
That's
for
what I
for
figured.
that kind of
I figured you
opportunity.
would be.
Maybe, you know, maybe through state parks or something like that might be an option. I don't want to bring up the fact that if we had a Title II rack, that would be a source of money, but that's also at the Washington office waiting for approval for the last 2.5 years, almost 3 years. But yeah, so anyway, so we all know Pete, so I'm sure
Okay.
he'll start getting in contact with us.
All
Did he
right.
say anything about whether he envisioned using the HistoriCorps group as a contractor?
He said nothing in this email.
Okay. Because
So-
they came, we had money a few years ago and he contracted with them. They're a nonprofit that does historic building restoration. And it was quite productive.
So that might be something to carry forward and continue to work with him on. But in terms of having a concrete plan regarding GAOA and
Yeah.
all that lined out. He's still thinking about that, especially with respect to the shortfall that the amount that we're allocated or supposedly going to receive on that, trying to figure out the best use of that. And so that it can go and be constructively used for the barn.
And just a note, so Paul, while you're on here, so if he does end up wanting to replace the few bad panels on the roof, I'm gonna be bugging PUD to send your bucket truck out again, because that's how we did it last time.
Yeah, we'll be able to do that.
Yeah, thank
We'll be-
you.
Yeah, okay. Well, we're kind of down to picking up the boat ramp project. We may not have Kelly join us yet today, so Minersville boat ramp update. So you already told us that
I
the
did speak
$1.5
directly
million was not one of the highest priorities, but is still on the list. But
Let
tell
me
us what else you
let me
know.
go back to that email from Pete Cates, our forest engineer. Hang on a second. All right, there it is. So I asked him what the status was, if he knew anything about the funding, or if we were going to be able to, if we were going to receive funding that we put in for that boat ramp. And he said, I've not heard any updates from additional funds that we requested in the most current portal for GAOA that they submitted late last year for the upcoming fiscal year. And he said they submitted the project, but all the forests submitted a lot of projects. They all went to the Washington office, but I don't believe Minersville got the additional, he put it in parentheses, plus point for being one of the region's highest priorities. So as I said, and then he said, without the bonus regional point, it still goes to the WO, but he has no idea if the request for additional funding will be approved. So with respect to the current plans, and so Cindy has been bulldogging Cal Boating, but they have not. That agency apparently is also either short-staffed or has a million priorities, and they get back with her and say, well, we haven't gotten to that yet. So it's a little frustrating for us too, because we can't move forward without their finalized plan, and the plans that they submitted to us previously were preliminary. And you do realize that, and I think I brought that up at our last meeting. They were just preliminary plans. So Cindy has been trying to reach out to Cal Boating, but I guess their workload is such that they're equally as busy and short-staffed as you could anticipate. So that's where we are with that. But we do need their more finalized drawings, if you will, to move forward on that. And so Pete said that right now we are hoping that we will be able to go with their original option, but he calls it Plan A with the Cal Boating design.
Well, is it possible for the Forest Service to develop a Plan B that has, a project within the $4.7 million that the grant, awarded? I mean.
So you mean, in other words, the Forest Service take on the design work and all of that? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I mean, because
So
you guys are the grant's gonna expire in a year. You've already gotten an extension. I mean, how are we gonna get this done? I'm just trying to figure out, rather than keep, blaming each other.
Oh, I'm
Somebody
not
has
blaming
to be
anybody.
proactive.
I don't blame. I don't cast blame. It's
Well,
pointless.
but I mean,
to cast
you're
blame.
saying, I understand the issue is, you're going back and forth from one agency to another. There's staffing changes, there's COVID, there's, all these other issues.
And those
And
are
what's
real issues.
Well, so I'm just wondering if there's a way to be more proactive in solving this problem and getting it done.
So all I can do is go back and, give you, see if there's any future ideas. I'll talk with Cindy again. But from what I know is we are waiting on from Cal Boating to give us a more finalized set of drawings.
So Leanne, will that finalized set of drawings be a plan that can be executed for the 4.7 million, or it won't be able to happen?
I do not have that information at this instance, at this moment.
So I know the last call we were on, Leanne, you assured us that we weren't going to lose this money, but those of us that have been down, it's like deja vu all over again. Carol, you know it. This idea of parking, Carol's brought that up. It's absurd. This is a low water ramp. Nobody's going to use a parking lot. Everybody parks on the bank. The prospect of losing this grant is absolutely outrageous. And I can't believe that we're going to do it again. I mean,
So you're
put some
putting, I
concrete down.
think you're already broadcasting worst case scenarios. So let's not doom things before, and I don't anticipate losing the money. I don't know why we would. And I'm not even going to go there. I'm working on the, under the auspices that we will I'm working with the mind for success moving forward. I'm not thinking about not anything other than success.
Well, one
Well,
thing you
that's
might,
what Carol asked about. Go ahead, Carol.
I'll say, one thing to factor in then is timeline for construction. So you would have to start construction this time next year. You'd have to have a contract and the money obligated, because the lake's going to start coming up and you won't be able to build the ramp. You're going to have to wait, hopefully, till the water goes down next winter. So, I mean, at a certain point, there's this reality check of when you can actually even build a ramp. I don't think you guys are factoring that in there.
Oh, I
Well,
believe they are. I believe they are.
But what I'm hearing, Leanne, is that, well, okay, the extra 1.5 million sounds like we're not going to get that. It sounds like the plan.
I did not say that.
Well, it's not a high priority, is what you said.
Yeah.
I did
I
not
know you
say
didn't
it's
say
not a
that
high
definitively.
priority. What I said was it didn't receive the extra regional priority. All right.
Well,
So
So let's go to Carol's plan B then, because that becomes essential. Let's assume worst case, you don't get the 1.5 million. We need a plan to spend the 4.7 million as effectively as possible and get the best low water ramp we can for that.
I hear you.
We
I'm writing that
need to
down.
have that plan.
I'm writing that down. I hear you. And I've been working since in the 4 months or the 3 months I've been here now. I have been as on top of this as I can be.
We understand that, Leanne.
Please understand that.
I think everybody does.
But,
Okay.
but likewise, thank you. But likewise, so I'm sorry if I sound like a broken record, but for the North Lake of the county, north part of the county, recreation is our economic driver.
I know that. I'm
And
aware of that.
Okay, and the Forest Service is the 800-pound gorilla when it comes to recreation. People, the only access to the lake under low water conditions is the Minersville boat ramp.
I'm
All the
also
other
aware
boat
of that.
ramps are out of the water.
I'm also aware of that.
Okay, well, are you aware that, people are saying if we won't have recreation, we're going to have to be cannabis growers like the southern part of the county? I mean, there's just
Well, no,
all these
that I'm
other
not, that I am
factors.
not. So, folks, all I can do is go back and work with Pete and Cindy and see, I can pass this message. I'm giving you the most current information that I have. And I wish that I had more to give you right at this moment, but I did find out everything I have that is current as of today from Pete and Cindy. So I'm not sure, I can go back and, talk with Cindy again, see if we could get what ideas she has, but I have been staying on top of this. So please do not think I have not been.
Well, then some proactive Plan B kind of an alternative, if you would be able to consider that, that would be appreciated.
And I understand that, you know, we have money to spend and we need to spend it by a certain time and we need to get all of this to happen. Okay, I understand that.
Okay. And keep us posted if you guys hear anything about
I will.
the Great American Outdoor Act funding too. Or if you think that even as individuals, not as a collaborative, if there's any contacting of Washington office that would be of use.
I don't know. I don't know what channels you have, so I can't make that recommendation to you. So that would be, you guys have your own contacts, I'm sure. So all I can do is do my best from the position that I'm in right now to keep pushing and driving at this. But you do also have to realize that Pete Cates, our forest engineer, his hands are tied. And, you know, he's done his due diligence. This got submitted to and was put on the list for GAOA. So there's so many pieces that are outside of my personal control that we are waiting on from other folks as well. And I'm not casting blame. What I am doing is just telling you what I know. And
Okay.
all I can do is talk to the people, get the most current information and keep you informed. But I really don't believe we're going to lose this money. I just don't believe that, but and I refuse to believe that.
Unfortunately, we have before.
Okay, so maybe the final pour of concrete at Trinity Center boat ramp. Do you know, have an update on that one?
They're going to be starting work on the 11th.
Ah, great. That's next Monday. Monday?
Yes. Yeah. We're
Wonderful.
putting out a press release, I believe today. It'll go out and that'll be available. But yes, they've had the on-site contractor meeting. Contractor wants to get out there and start pouring. So the work is scheduled to begin next week.
Cool. That's great.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's closures too. That press release has the closure information
For the boat ramp.
for the boat ramp. They're doing work.
I can't imagine it's
It's
even.
it's
Apparently
closed, it's closed
I
at the
don't know
moment.
all the phases, but okay. It has a timeline of 120 days to complete it.
Okay. Good. Thank you. Only other thing that I had put on the agenda, and we may have talked about it last time under the other topics, was the schedule for the Shasta Recreations contract renewal, or I think it's a
Mhm.
renewal, or it may have already happened. I couldn't remember.
No, I've got some information with you on that. I just was texting our rec program manager, Joe Stubendick. Do you all know Joe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So their concession, the Shasta Rec concessionaire concession permit expires on 12/31/22. So
Okay.
good for another 2 years. And right now, we're in the process of developing a new prospectus. So then we will go out for bids. And so that's what he said. He said that expires on the end of December 22. So they will,
Okay.
that permit will be in place for another 2 years.
Okay.
Also, the other thing he pointed out, does not auto renew. We put it out to the public to compete for the next contract. So that will be, that process is underway, and I've been part of those meetings, developing the new prospectus for that. And then he also brought up, because I asked him a question, and this kind of circles back to GAOA stuff on that list that I put up, the sign inventory information. He says when we have the money, it won't be done all at once, and and that it'll be done with the signs that need replacing and on the highest priority first. But then the first thing that's on their list is bathrooms, trash, and safety. And then the priority signs would follow those. So that's what he indicated to me as well, because I wanted to see if he had some more information on that.
So on the contract, Carol, you had something?
Yeah, so I think the recreation committee would like to be involved in, as you're developing the prospectus, because the collaborative has taken positions on the concessionaire that we'd like to be, kind of incorporate that, things like concerns we've had about the website, about potentially on the prospectus, having a separate bid for the Shasta side versus the Trinity side, the way that it used to be before they got combined. So I think there are comments from the collaborative that could be incorporated as you're developing the prospectus.
At least taken into account.
Yeah.
So the prospectus is actually not being done by the forest. So the perspective is being done by what we call the enterprise team. And their contract, it's a very strange relationship.
They're Forest Service employees yeah.
They're Forest Service employees that it's kind of like a consulting firm, but not quite. It's a very different entity, but they're actually doing the campground prospectus for us. And then we are providing the information to them because they need a lot of information to put this together. So I will ask Joe if there's a way or a place, and we're going to actually have a meeting with Enterprise next week to take for you to submit some feedback so that, and see if there's a way to incorporate some of your feedback into the development of that prospectus.
So this group, in the time that I've been involved, certainly one of the most important probably pieces of input was for the Forest Service to do is consider what Carol had described, which was to split apart, the project it to two separate bids, one for the Shasta Lake, one for Trinity Lake, and at least some consideration of that, and if you can't, kind of the reasons why.
I know right now that's not the tack we're taking based upon my meetings and the participation I've been. They're looking at offering the whole ball of wax.
But maybe it's just never been brought up.
I mean, if I remember right, the collaborative approved a white paper, and one of the things in the white paper was breaking up the concessionaire for Shasta Trinity again.
And part of the rationale behind that is, opportunity for contractors, that are local in Trinity County that are not big enough to take on Shasta Lake and Trinity Lake, but it's kind of an economic issue here locally.
Yeah, I mean, Shasta Rec buys most of their supplies in Reading and then brings them all up here instead of buying locally.
I'll talk with Joe.
Yeah, if there's any, at least have that conversation with him would be appreciated.
I will.
Thanks. So that's all I think I have on the agenda. People have other things for the agenda to talk about now, bring up. So my guess, Leanne, is that we don't meet again until the Friday in March before the collaborative meeting. So we don't meet until like March 12th. So I'm thinking you might be gone by then.
I will indeed be gone by then.
So I want to thank you for your patience with us and the work that you've been able to get done. And hope you have a safe trip back to Utah.
Well, I appreciate that. And I've made some notes here, as you've probably seen me looking away, of things to circle back for you on. And, and I realize too that, never forget, I'm also a citizen I'm a public person as well. these national forests not only belong to you, they belong to me. And so I understand the challenges and frustrations sometimes of working with a big entity like the Forest Service. And there's multiple players in the pot. And I not only understand that both from a private perspective, but as a professional as well. So I love my agency, and but I also love all of you as well. And I say that with sincerity in my heart, because our motto is caring for the land and serving the people. And I live and die by that every day. And so my intent, even if I can't give you the answers you want to hear or would like to hear, is to give you the best, most current information that I have and what I can relay back to you, and that we are actively trying to accomplish things. Does everything happen perfectly? No, of course not. It doesn't happen in your lives either, your everyday lives. So, but do realize that the people that work for the National Forest System are just like you. You know, they use these forests, they use the lands, they use the lake, and this means a lot to us as well. So we will continue to do our best to work and liaise with you and make good things happen on the ground. So try to keep that in, please try to keep that in mind. We really are trying to do our very best.
Thank you.
We know. Unfortunately, you've inherited a lot of long-term frustration. So I apologize for being grumpy, but we really, really do appreciate all your work and the Forest Service as a whole.
And Jennifer, you'll probably go back to your regular job before we convene again also. Because I think you
Yep,
said
we
that
will.
Sally's back in February. So it was
Yep.
great meeting you. Maybe we'll see you on a trail somewhere along the line, checking on one of your permittees. So
Likewise.
again,
Yeah.
thank you for your participation and kind of researching things out for us ahead of time. And again, thank you. And everybody, thank you for your time today. See most of you guys next Friday for the full collaborative meeting. So anyway, thanks a lot, everybody.
All
What
right.
time is that meeting? Is it always at 10 o'clock?
This meeting, the meetings are always at 10, except when they're not.
Okay. So when you had emailed me before we hang up, I had asked if you would just at least, whenever you're doing correspondence, keep our executive assistant on the CC line, because she is instrumental in keeping our calendars and schedules. And I've been caught by surprise a few times that, oh, you're having a meeting today. Well, crap, I've got 5 other meetings scheduled today. So
Yeah.
it's good to make sure she is in the loop on that, and also to make sure all your correspondence has the key players in either the 2 or CC line, upcoming meeting 2 weeks out, or 4 weeks out, and that would really be helpful, I think, so that you can always have a full cadre of people at your meetings as much as possible, so that you get the answers you're looking for. I feel bad for you today because Chris wasn't here, Tara wasn't here. Maybe they would have had some information for you that you would have liked to have heard, but they probably had other things on their schedule, or maybe this caught them unaware or at last minute. So if you would be so kind as to, stay in contact with our executive assistant, I think that would really help.
The recreation and collaborative meetings are a standing meeting. They're scheduled all year. We put the schedule out all year ahead of time. So,
but please make sure that your emails always include our executive assistant.
We will.
Okay, that would really be helpful.
Sure.
All right, folks, let me know what I can do for you in the next 6 weeks. I will circle back on these things and send you, get you the most. I will follow up on these, and you have my word on that. I did after our last meeting too. So
Great.
I will certainly do that for you.
Great. Thank you very much. And again, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right.
See you
Take
at the
care.
next thing, whatever that is. Some of you at 12:30.
Thanks again.
Bye now.
Jennifer.
Bye.
Thanks, Ross and Susan. And thanks, Pat and Carol.
Yeah. Okay, Kelly.
Talk to you guys soon.
Yeah, so you have that, I think you got the email about the executive assistant, right?
I believe that I did see that and I didn't actually do that. So I'll make sure to
Okay.
do that before we send out the one for next week.
Yeah, and we
Yeah,
might just send that person an email that says, here's the schedule
For
for
the year.
for the collaborative, get it on the calendar,
That's
you
right.
know? So, okay, cool. You're gonna be
Mhm.
part of the community forest thing later today?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna just join by
they
phone.
and actually asked me to do a little visioning discussion at the beginning.
Okay,
Just to sort of talk about part of what I specifically had talked with them about with regard
right.
to the direction of everything and stuff. But I did have a talk with them after the AOP meeting
Yeah,
on Wednesday. So so yeah, I'll be on there for sure.
okay, cool. And I'm just gonna join by phone because we're running out of data.
Yep, I saw your email. So
Okay, cool.
yep.
So with that, have a good lunch.
All right. Thanks. so
Bye.
much.